we'll call on you. We'll start with Jimmy Himes.
Hey, Matthew, Coach Brumbaugh said the other day that he really liked your approach, your understanding, and your work ethic in terms of being a good defensive lineman. Just talk about what he has meant to you as a coach in trying to obtain your goals.
So Coach Brumbaugh, like I said before, he's very meticulous. He's very high attention to detail, just like I am. Early in my career, it was almost to a fault, focusing too much on the details, not just going out playing ball. Coach Brumbaugh has really come at me as far as a coaching, from a coaching perspective, and come at all of us as far as a coaching perspective with that good balance of going out playing ball. It's a violent sport, especially for a defensive lineman, to where you're making contact with another opposing player every snap, and then also being high attention to detail so that you can be the best athlete you can be.
And how do you feel like you've grown as a defensive lineman from your freshman year to now?
Exponentially. I come in as a freshman, probably about 20 pounds lighter than I am now. A little bit of a different role, different defense, but now I have more of an understanding of the game. I'm able to kind of use all these moves I have in my head and actually know when and how to execute them rather than just going out and doing them haphazardly. So I've become more of a student of the game, a cerebral player, knowing what's in front of me rather than just, lining up and playing. But it's a good balance because I can still line up and play, if maybe I don't really, understand what's in front of me, if the opposing offense is doing something outside of their normal personnel or whatever the case may be. So it's a good balance. And that's due to coaching. That's due to a lot of work that I've done on myself. That's due to watching a lot of football. So, like I said, I've grown exponentially.
Go to Nicholas Hill at WUTK and then David Ubben.
Obviously, you guys are going to face Kentucky this weekend, who is a run-first team. Just how does your approach change when you're facing a team that really likes to run the ball like Kentucky versus a balanced attack like Georgia presented last week, or even a pass-first approach, kind of like what you saw 2 weeks ago with Missouri?
It's actually a little bit more different than you think, just because although they have a good running back who has racked up a lot of yards in his career, they also have a quarterback, just like last year, who can run the ball, who's fast, athletic, can run the ball and pass the ball a little bit as well. So I would say in some ways, we take the same approach as we did last year, being able to, as a defensive line, to plug those interior gaps, get off blocks, to set edges and have contained and just be ready to run for sure, because if we can bounce it outside, the sidelines are friend, make those tackles, just like we did a good bit last year and like we want to do every game because it's the SEC, it's a run-first league. So, yeah.
How would you describe the impact of getting Sean back last week and then having Bryce get back to being healthy as well?
Oh, those are two guys who have been in our program for a while and who are also very talented guys. So, when you have that level of talent, you have that level of experience, and then you can also add a level of leadership because they have that talent, experience, and outspokenness. It's a great thing. It really galvanizes our defense in a lot of ways to know that, the guys behind us, excuse me, we're the guys in front of them, that we can all kind of work together with all of our pieces. If we get tired, we have great subs. If they get tired, they have great subs. We have all our pieces. Nobody has to play a million snaps or play out of position. It's really a good feeling going into the week.
All right, we'll go Blake Topmeyer, then David Pascal.
Sorry, I was muted. Matthew, you were talking about Terry Wilson a little bit, but just to follow up on that, Kentucky's typically got one of the most run-oriented quarterbacks in the SEC East. I guess just how does that affect a defense? Maybe you go a couple weeks without facing a run-oriented quarterback, but how does it affect you, when those matchups come up and you do have to prepare for a quarterback that can run?
Might affect a little bit of personnel. Might have a couple checks here and there, but having a run-oriented quarterback or maybe having a heavy run offense is kind of one and the same as far as your approach going into the week. And playing in the SEC, where even if you do have more of a balanced attack like we had in weeks past, or even more of a slightly pass-heavy attack like we had in weeks past, you're still going against good running backs with big offensive lines who are willing and able to go downhill. So the approach doesn't change too much, but, a few personnels, a few checks, and, still put yourself in good position to win a ball game.
And then I also wanted to follow up on something you said about being, you're a detail-oriented guy, but, Coach Brumbaugh has kind of made you think to also don't, think too much about the details, don't become overwhelmed by that. I mean, that's sort of counterintuitive to life, like that you're always taught to think about the details. How were you able to get yourself to kind of walk that line of keeping the details in mind, but also, knowing when to shut that off a little bit?
I mean, with everything comes balance, and that balance isn't always going to be a straight line, and maybe you don't follow that perfect balance every day, but, you learn to adjust, you learn to kind of adhere to whatever circumstance has been placed upon you. I'm not going to act like I have life figured out, like, all the way. But, you just find that balance of the details and of kind of living. You find that balance of the details and balling. And, you ain't got to walk it straight, It might be a narrow path, it might be wider at some places, but, you kind of just find that balance day by day rather than just this one balance that you walk down the whole time. I hope that makes sense.
Matthew, you talked about this week being a different type of preparation. Do you like these kind of challenges? Do you like knowing that a team's going to try to wear you down by running the ball, where you've got a chance to wear them down? Do you kind of like this? It's a very simplistic, they want to run, you want to stop the run. Do you like these kind of matchups?
I like football. So, last year, we were able to get a few sacks versus a run-heavy team in Kentucky, so that's awesome. And we also stopped the run well enough to win the game. This year, we want to compound on that, stop the run even better, even though they have some different personnel and different guys, and play ball. But ultimately, no matter whether, they're going to pass the ball 48 times a game or run the ball 60 times a game, we're just trying to go out there, play some good football, and win the ball game.
And I was going to ask you about how you felt after last year's game, because they did rush for over 300 yards, but you held them to only 13 points. How did you feel after that game and what the defense did last year?
We did some good things. Obviously, it ended in a really good goal line stop. I myself played a pretty decent game. I had a penalty, though, so, I have to take responsibility for that, a later hit on the quarterback. As a whole defense, I thought we played together. We ran after the ball. We limited our mistakes, and we were going against a really good athlete. So, he does pick up some yards. All credit to that guy. He's in the NFL now. So, we played a good game last year, but that's last year. They have a different quarterback, different personnel, probably some new coaching pieces somewhere, and going out there, execute and win the game again.
Thank you.
We'll go to Rick Russo, then Ryan Shumpert.
Hey, Matthew, good afternoon. The score didn't indicate it last week, but how close do you guys feel as a team you are to competing against and beating teams like that Georgia squad last weekend?
Any given Saturday, anybody can win the game. It's just all about limiting your mistakes and executing. So we didn't limit enough mistakes, and we didn't execute as well as we could have.
Hey, Matthew, has Coach Pruitt talked to you guys much about mental health? And if he has, what have some of those conversations been like?
He does. He doesn't want to single anybody out. So, you know, he just makes it clear that we do have resources, that we do have him, and that we do have our position coaches, to where if anything were to transpire as far as our mental health individually, that, like I said, we do have those resources. We do have that ability to speak out to somebody whom we trust and, you know, get the help, or whether it be a little bit of help or a lot of help, or, you know, that one may need.
All right, we'll go back to Jimmy Himes.
Matthew, I know there was a lot of optimism from Tennessee's perspective going into the Georgia game, but does a game like that hurt your confidence any?
No.
All right, we'll go back to Nicholas Hill.
A lot of people have said in the past few years, the Tennessee-Kentucky rivalry has definitely grown more in significance, and especially it's, you know, considering it's gone back for, you know, dozens of years, back to the early 1900s. Just does that, when you two get on the field, does that game have a different type of intensity, you know, comparable to like the Florida, Georgia, and Alabama games, or is it more like another SEC game?
If you don't bring intensity every SEC game, you're going to lose all of them.
All right, I think that's it. All right, thank you, Matthew. We appreciate it.